Hey everybody, Professor Snart. Quick check-in here. We are getting very close to our first workshop, the fiction workshop. So I'm recording this early on Wednesday, so that's, and I'll post it right away in our Blackboard course. So for our fiction workshops, or for our workshops generally then, and I'm looking at Unit 5 here, you'll notice that the workshops like 5, 8, 10, and then there's a final one, they always have two due dates. So the workshop, I mean face-to-face, how this would happen is as a class, everyone would write, let's say, a short story. We might break into groups or work as a large group, but let's say we broke into groups. Everyone would then, get a copy of everybody else's work. So if I had 5 people in my group, I would have my short story, but also a copy of everybody else's. And that's really our first due date, the posting your work for people to get. And then our next meeting, or for us, our next virtual due date here, we would meet as that group then and provide feedback on everybody's story. So within a group of 5, you have your own story, but also everyone else's, and you're getting feedback not just from 1 or 2 other people, but from everybody in the group. So it's really effective in terms of getting really substantial and then practicable feedback that you can actually use as a writer. And really, they're not terribly complicated, these workshops. It's really the golden rule. Since we're also writers in the workshop, not just, givers of feedback, we know what kind of feedback is most useful. It's not just, hey, this was great, I loved it. I mean, that's good to hear, but how do you really use that to revise a story and make it better? You don't really want just editing comments like comma corrections or fixing little typos. Again, useful, but probably something you could do on your own or relatively, in a relatively straightforward way. What you're really looking for is that your readers invest in the story itself and think about ways really kind of globally about how to make it better. So do characters need work? Does the ending need work? Does the beginning need work? And again, the purpose of the workshop isn't for you as the writer to take a piece of writing that you think is perfect and submit it and get a good grade. Remember, I don't grade the writing of it necessarily. In fact, it's sort of pointless. It defeats the purpose of the workshop if you're not open to any kind of constructive criticism, right? So really, everybody understands that the piece of writing that you're submitting for workshop does in fact need work. So when someone comments on maybe wanting more character development or wanting something to happen at the end or more description, more detail, whatever it happens to be, we need to be open to that because we've kind of gone into the workshop assuming that, yes, we're looking for that kind of feedback. By the same token, though, you have to be obviously really careful about expressing yourself because we're just doing it through writing here. We don't have that kind of immediate face-to-face time. You don't want your feedback to come off as really overly negative. So it's a bit of a balancing act between not just celebrating a work as if it's the best thing ever, and not being too negative, but identifying areas for maybe revision or that aren't as strong as other areas of a story. And again, being quite specific in terms of like, if you think character needs development, then identify precisely where. So there's a couple of things that'll help us kind of guide us along here. So make sure that you've looked through the how the workshops work area of our course. You'll see that there's descriptions technically just about how the due dates work, which is pretty much what I've just said. There's instructions on how to post, and the groups are now available in Unit 5. And then there's a lengthy thing about how to provide feedback. So there's the golden rule I've already mentioned. And it's really important that you understand this and do this correctly because this is actually what I grade, not the writing of your work per se. Again, it might be in draft form, all these other things are at work. I'm more concerned about whether you post your work on time and then the quality, not of the writing, but of the feedback that you give to other people. So what you're going to be doing is returning a file, right, the file that someone has posted as their short story, with comments in the file. So you're not just writing something in the discussion board, some generic kind of, I liked it, characters were great. but really specific. And there's good examples here in our the how to provide feedback area. So in this case, you'll see that someone has used the official commenting feature in the word processor to highlight certain things and then provide these marginal comments. And again, the sample is small here, but this would be throughout, right, a short story. So what you get back as the writer then is this fully marked up and quite like specific, right? The comments are connected to a specific area of the short story. So you get this from a number of people with comments throughout. You really have a lot of material to work with. Here's another example where someone has, again, working within the file, used the highlighting feature, used the square brackets to indicate things that they've inserted. So you're working in the file, but you obviously want to make sure that your commentary is visible to the person. It's not just buried in the text somewhere that they can't even see it. And remember, again, it's throughout the file, right, throughout the short story, throughout the piece, and it's also not just editing for spelling mistakes and that kind of thing. There really needs to be some substantial investment on your part as the reader in providing meaningful feedback. And again, the golden rule, that's what you want to get, so clearly that's what you want to give. So it's worth and important that you read through, obviously, all of this material, since our course is fundamentally a workshop course. That's really, I feel like, the main thing that you're getting out of this course. There's a note on feedback from me, which is just sort of reminding you that for a matter of time more than anything, I don't provide a lot of personal feedback, since again, I'm not really grading your writing. I'm grading, did you post on time? Did you provide feedback substantially in the right format? So you're really depending on your peer group members to get that feedback on your writing. Now, of course, if you want to approach me just sort of individually to get some further feedback, I'd be more than happy to do that. So, send me an email or just get in contact with me. Again, how the workshops work is really important to review here. Let's see, the grade breakdown is maybe worth reviewing as well. Just in terms of what things are worth, the policies, right? It's a lot of text, but it's fairly straightforward stuff. And really the workshop grading guidelines, they amount to what I've just said. Is it posted on time and in the right format? So it's a file that people can download and work with. I don't even read the thing right at this point. I actually do read it, but in terms of grading, I'm not looking for that. And then the other component is, have you provided meaningful feedback, returning a marked up file to them? So again, that's where the points are. So there's no kind of magic mystery about, do I like your writing, do I not like your writing, whatever. It's really not a subjective kind of thing. Okay, to wrap this up then, I will take us into Unit 5, which is our short story workshop. Some of this stuff is repeated, so again, asking you to read the How the Workshops Work section. Some just screenshots of what things will look like. Obviously, the names will be different since it's from a previous class. You won't have the option to create a thread, so you're just clicking into where your name is. So the groups are all down at the bottom here. The assignment itself is really open-ended. Just write a short story. No special format or no special subject matter. I'm asking for a word limit, but again, just in terms of the time we have, you're not likely to produce this gigantic short story, so not a concern really. So you'll find yourself in a group, hopefully. If you don't, let me know. You'll click into the discussion board here, and then just find where you are in your group and pop in. And then you'll see there's nothing here as I'm looking at it, but as people reply, right, that's what you'll do. So if Lauren is coming in, she'll reply to this post with her short story file attached. Now, Lauren or anybody else might like to add a little note like, I'd really like feedback on character, or I wasn't really happy with the ending. So you can sort of direct people's reading and feedback a little bit, but all you're really providing is just that file. So make sure you've done that correctly. So that's due date 1, and then once due date 2 rolls around, obviously that discussion board will be populated by everyone's short story. You'll simply go back in, right, by this next due date, and you do have considerable time between that Thursday and Tuesday, at least, in the context of our course. So you have time to read everybody's short story who posted on time in a format that you can access, so a file. So you're reading that work, commenting within the file, and then reposting it to the discussion board. So everything's contained in that discussion board. And while this type of workshop, the virtual or online workshop, it doesn't have the benefit of that immediacy that we have obviously in the face-to-face environment, I actually find it at least equally, if not more effective, because the feedback that you're getting is so substantially in writing in the document. So we don't have that like nice face-to-face time, but the quality of the feedback that you're hopefully getting is potentially much higher than what you might get if someone is just kind of chatting with you about your story. So it really gives you something to work with. All right, so keep track of these due dates. Again, so much of the grading just depends on simple doing things on time. And then if you have any questions about how the workshops work or expectations or anything like that, by all means be in touch with me. We're moving pretty quick, so hopefully everyone's still on board here.